As I speak, there is a live Reddit infestation in my comment section. As I make this video, just got home from work. As I make this video, there are Redditors in my comment section leaving their filthy opinions unchecked. In this video, we're going to talk about how you can spot Redditors, how to deal with them, how I spotted these specific Redditors, and then we're also going to talk about marksmanship and competitive shooting. A few months ago, I made a video titled 3 Myths About Olympic-Style Shooting and Bullseye. In that, I covered a few myths that I think were common misconceptions. And on this video, I got a comment, and typically when I get a comment on a video, I'll try to respond to them and give them a real response, right? I'm very good about that, I think. And I'm unfortunately, with YouTube Shorts, I get so many YouTube comments on my YouTube Shorts that I just can't reply to every single one of them or even read every single one of them. But with the videos, I do try to respond to them and give them the time of day if they show that they actually watch the video, right? But I'm familiar enough with my content that it's pretty obvious when someone just leaves a comment having only read the title or having only looked at the chapter names, right? And they didn't actually watch the video. So this guy writes, unpopular opinion, and by the way, this is like a very Reddit diction sort of thing where they start a comment or whatever with unpopular opinion, but then it ends up just being a really popular opinion. So this guy says, unpopular opinion. Bullseye is very interesting, but some of the advice like letting the gun surprise you is not conducive to practical shooting and overall a bad thing to learn from most shooters. Blah, 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 blah. But the whole gist of his argument is talking about the surprise shot. So in the video, I never talk about the surprise shot or surprise shooting, and none of the top bullseye shooters like advocate for a surprise shot, right? The origin of the surprise shot does not come from bullseye, and that was one of the main points I was trying to get across in that video. My myth number 3 was bad shooting techniques, and that's because there are tons of bad shooting techniques like riding the reset or staging the trigger or the surprise shot that people attribute to bullseye shooting. But if you actually look at what the top shooters in bullseye are saying, they are not advocating for these techniques, right? And this goes back like 50, 60 plus years, 70, 80 plus years, right? You can look at Harry Reeves, who was the first man in bullseye to break 2600, which was sort of like the 4-minute mile in bullseye, right? It's a big accomplishment. Back in the 1950s and 1960s, he was advocating for a controlled trigger jerk when your sights are where you want them on the target and your sights are aligned. A controlled trigger jerk, does that sound familiar? Does that sound like something that maybe some top shooters here have advocated for, like an IPSC or USPSA? Well, this goes back to bullseye shooting almost 70 years ago. In more recent years, if you look at like Gunny Brian Zins, who's won the NRA National Pistol Championships like 20 times, I think the last time was in the 2010s that he won it, he says there's 2 types of trigger control: uninterrupted and wrong. In my estimation, the surprise shot doesn't come from bullseye. It comes from like the military and law enforcement qualification world, because the easiest way to take 100 untrained people who may have never touched a rifle in their lives before and shove them through recruit training is to make them not flinch so it hits somewhere in the center of a very forgiving target. And the easiest way to make an untrained shooter not flinch is if they don't know if the gun's going to go off in the first place. And that's exactly what the point of the video was, that these bad shooting techniques are attributed to bullseye shooting. So I could tell immediately that the guy didn't actually watch the video. He saw the title, he saw the chapter names, and he wanted to get his opinion out there, right? Because this is how Redditors are, right? They don't want to listen. They want to be center stage. They want to get their opinion out. They want to have the most upvotes at the end of the day, right? That's all they want to do. And so the easiest way to attack someone like that and like destroy their ego is to not give them the time of day, right? I just said, you know, it's always very obvious when someone either didn't watch or didn't comprehend the video. Now, I wager that he didn't watch the video, but saying that he didn't comprehend the video, you know, insults his ego, his idea that he's an intelligent person, right? Suggesting that, of course, he comprehends the video. So a few hours later, he replies back, and he leaves a very lengthy reply. I mean, very lengthy. And he says, no, I watched the video. I just don't agree with your conclusions. And then he says, some proof I watched your video. And then he says, myth 1, myth 2, myth 3. And then he basically just lists the chapter titles, which you don't even have to watch the video. You could just like scroll through the timeline and put what he put in the comments and say, proof I watched your video. Or he could have taken like the AI summary of the video, right? But there is no proof that he watched the video. I know he didn't, right? Just based off of what he says. And then he goes and he writes a book, right? I mean, a book, like thousands of words. This is a 5-paragraph order by the end of the time he's done with it, right? And he starts talking about the surprise shot again, right? Like that's exactly the point I was trying to make. Like the surprise shot is something I didn't mention. First off, surprise shot I didn't even mention in the video, so why is he bringing it up? And two, why is he attributing that to Bullseye? So paragraph 1 is just talking about surprise shot, so you don't even have to read all that. Blah, 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 getting rid of flinch and all this sort of stuff. It's obvious this guy doesn't actually really know how to shoot, or he doesn't have a very good depth of knowledge with marksmanship fundamentals to say anything that he's saying here. He then goes and talks about, this is what he really wanted to say, right? He starts giving his own shooting advice now. He starts talking about how in order to shoot a good shot, you need to stage the trigger, as in bring your trigger finger to the wall and then pull through the wall. Even IPSC shooters don't recommend that, right? Like Jerry Michalek doesn't recommend that. He recommends one uninterrupted trigger control, trigger pull. He even says something like he watches people's hammers in double action, and if it goes back in one motion and goes forward in one continuous pull, that's someone he needs to watch out for. If he sees someone staging the double action trigger, he knows that's someone he doesn't have to worry about, right? Joel Park here on YouTube, he runs a good channel where he talks about shooting techniques, and I don't agree with every single one of them for different reasons, but he does talk about uninterrupted trigger control, and I think his skills are demonstrable here on YouTube if you want to look those up. I've talked to Calvin from Firepower United. He says the same thing. Top USPSA shooters, they're all about that uninterrupted trigger control, one smooth motion, one fluid motion. Same thing in Bullseye, right? Same thing in Bullseye. Brian Zins, 20-time NRA National Championship. His favorite saying is there are two types of trigger control.
There's uninterrupted and wrong.
Keith Sanderson, Olympic rapid fire, 5-time Olympian, he says things like, there is no upper limit on how fast you can pull the trigger, but there is an upper limit on how slow you can pull the trigger. At no point in the fundamentals of marksmanship is there anything that says, written in stone tablets that came down from the mountain, that you have to stage the trigger. There's nothing written in stone tablets saying that you have to pull the trigger slowly to produce a good shot. There are so many people out there with so many ideas on marksmanship, and there are so many people that have been in law enforcement and military that don't really have complete ideas of marksmanship, and they have their own opinions that were just essentially convenient ways of pushing recruits through training, and then they'll go and repeat that on the street, and then that'll become its own sort of dogma. So I replied to that comment, this is just a list of unqualified statements, generalities, and strawmans, most of which even top IPSC shooters would disagree with. I'm sorry to inform you that you are a Neo-Fudd and are at the peak of Dunning-Kruger. I suggest you dry fire instead of using your time to leave comments like this one. So when I got home from work today, I noticed something strange about this comment chain. I noticed there were a bunch of replies to it, and I noticed that all the comments in there opposing me or like picking apart my video were getting a lot of likes. And I was like, huh, that's strange. You know, this video doesn't get a whole lot of views. It doesn't get a whole lot of comments. Why am I getting so many comments? Why are these guys getting so many likes right now, right? So I went through and I checked, and the first thing I do is I can check the age of the channels. You can do this too, even if you're not the uploader of the video. You can click on their icon and you can see that one of the guys that left a comment, he made an account 1 hour ago. And the types of comments he was leaving were just like shame on you type comments. Someone leaves a really well thought out and engaging comment and you reply like that, shame on you. That's like a Reddit shame tactic, right? Because they try to take the moral high ground, even though they're literally just trying to gaslight me, because this guy obviously did not thoughtfully engage with the content. He completely skipped through the video, didn't watch it, and then shat out his own opinion in the comment section, right? And then calls his Reddit friends over to back him up, right? That's not thoughtful engagement with the content. It is on Reddit, not when it comes to real life human beings. So the comment that guy had left was, while we're making suggestions, might I suggest that you post a video of you running a USPSA match? You have to have competed in one before, because the alternative is that you've never actually shot a USPSA match, and you're just assuming bullseye shooting would make you a better USPSA shooter. In that video, I never mentioned USPSA, I never mentioned IPSC, I never mentioned having ever shot a USPSA match, because I never have, right? I plan to at some point, probably. I'll probably do something like that with Calvin over at Firepower United. I think broadly speaking, if you're someone that's struggling to get on paper in USPSA, like learning some fundamentals would probably make you a better USPSA shooter. I don't think being very good at bullseye will make you the top of the game in USPSA. And I don't think being a top of the game USPSA shooter is going to make you very good at bullseye either, right? They're different games, right? But what I was getting at is generally bullseye is very applicable to many different types of scenarios that you might use a handgun in. And I gave specific examples of that in the video, none of which was USPSA. The two competition examples I gave was GSSF and a 2-gun action match hosted by Brownells. In GSSF, I've done very well. I've won several Glocks. In the 2-gun action match, in my very first action 2-gun match, whatever you want to call it, I came in 3rd place in my division, right? With nothing but bullseye experience, and I shot that match, half of it one-handed. So Those were the two specific examples I gave. This guy's talking about USPSA, something I never mentioned in the video. Again, it's a straw man argument. It's not in good faith. It's just supposed to be a gotcha so they can get upvotes, right? So when I saw that comment, I started seeing the likes. I realized, that guy, the other guy had made his account an hour ago and he's trying to shame me. I realized I'm dealing with some Redditors. So I said, I've never once said what you're suggesting. I've obviously struck a nerve if Buddy had to call in his Reddit brigade backup, dry fire more, and you would suck less, right? Again, the easiest way to break down a Redditor is to insult their fragile ego, right? Because I think deep down they know like they're not as smart or intelligent as they think they might be. So yeah. Now, right after I left that comment, that was like a total wager. I just figured they were Redditors based off of the way they were typing, based off the way they were like ganging up on me and liking each other's comments. But the funny thing is, as a YouTuber, I can check the analytics for a video and I can see exactly where the traffic is coming from. And like I said, this video has been pretty dead for a while now. And I noticed there was a huge spike in views in the last 60 minutes. I can check exactly where those views came from. And those views came from other YouTube features, external or direct or unknown. So external means external websites linking to the video. Direct or unknown means that it's an external link, but they have some way of masking where that link came from. So if they have like a VPN or something like that. Other YouTube features means that someone shared it or clipped it and then shared it that way, right? So this guy was obviously sending clips of this video or sending the link to all his friends or whatever. But the cool thing is I can go to the analytics and see exactly what websites this video links to or was being linked from. And when I went to the last 60 minutes for external video clicks, they were coming from reddit.com and reddit.frontpage.com. So obviously I'm dealing with some Redditors. That's when I was like, all right, this is funny enough to where I need to make a video, right? Because these guys really think that these are grown men trying to do like schoolyard bully tactics. You know what I mean? They're trying to gang up on me and like freak me. Oh, wow. How dare you say that to this really nice, well thought out comment that totally didn't even watch the video and is just saying his own shit, right? This is the way Redditors operate. If you ever find yourself in this situation, the best way to deal with it, number one, is just don't engage. The second best way is to troll them, right? Make them write a book. I gauge how well I'm doing in an internet argument. If they're writing a book and I'm writing 2 sentences, that's me winning, right? They're putting a lot of effort. I'm not putting a whole lot of effort into it, right? And not to say I've never been on the opposite end of that, right? I've lost. Everyone loses an internet argument at least once in their life, right? So yeah, I just thought that was hilarious. This is just like a one take video because it's so funny to me. Yeah, thank you guys for watching. Thank you especially for my channel members and Patreon supporters for supporting the channel directly. And yeah, if you ever find yourself in a live Reddit invasion situation, now maybe you've got some tips to handle them. And hopefully you've walked away with a little bit more information about marksmanship and a few more misconceptions that people have about bullseye shooting.